I was trying to warn the world that mortgage markets were going to implode, that it would be a global phenomenon from which we would never recover, we would only adapt, and the backlash would lead to nationalism and the erosion of democracy around the world. 2011, convergence, because I was talking about the convergence between the housing finance side of the industry and the residential real estate side of the industry, which never the twain shall meet. 2020, entropy, before COVID hit. The American mortgage market was in an advanced state of entropy, that if you didn't maintain it, things would fall apart. And I predicted that things would fall apart. The session on climate change was called Fatal Abstraction: where to buy, where to sell, and when to freak out. And in that session, I told everybody it's just a matter of months now before insurance companies start canceling insurance policies and pulling out of markets altogether. 3 months later, they did. I'm used to running scenarios of the future. These aren't just predictions. This is what I see. And I see these things based on a really heavy analysis of social, technological, economic, environmental, and political factors.
Welcome to the Debt Doctor podcast, where we deliver the definitive prescription for navigating distressed real estate debt. I'm your host and America's most qualified debt doctor, Bill Bymel. I've spent my career investing in, diagnosing, and reviving thousands of distressed real estate situations. The Debt Doctor prescribes proprietary remedies to help you identify, acquire, and monetize undervalued real estate assets. Each episode gives you insider access to the strategies top cohorts use to transform market volatility into double-digit returns. If you enjoy what you hear today, hit the follow button, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and please share your support with a quick review. You can find me on the web at billbymel.com. Thanks for joining this episode of The Debt Doctor. I have been looking forward to this half hour for months, if not years. Toni Moss, welcome to the Debt Doctor.
Thank you.
I probably will never do as good a job of telling the world who you are as you might. What I will tell folks is the timing of this conversation could not be more critical, more important. As you know, I've been working on a new book about the influence of climate and its impacts on the financial system, especially real estate and mortgage. You were really the inspiration for me on this book. You come from a finance background, but you have been organizing events every other year or so around this topic. You're very well connected, both in the finance world and government world. And so I just, you're the ideal person for me to be talking to today. I don't understand, and this is the thing that I tell people over and over again, how we are the only country on the globe that treats climate instability, climate volatility, climate change, whatever you want to call it, like it's a political opinion versus a fact. Tell my friends and my listeners who you
Why
are.
do you think that is, Bill?
I don't know. I don't understand it.
Come on. Common sense. Why do you think that
It's
is?
obviously there are financial motivators, right, behind it.
Yeah. When Trump was first interviewed by Diane Sawyer, he said, it's a hoax. It's a hoax. Climate change is a hoax. People making a lot of money there. I don't want to spend billions and billions of dollars. So there's your answer. I don't want to invest what it is going to take to protect us from the inevitabilities that we face,
Hmm. And
which
then
is
who
called
who who
power.
is going to pay though? How where does the cost come if we don't?
The poor are going to pay based on where they live. The middle class are going to pay when they can no longer afford the ongoing costs of home ownership. That's who's going to pay. This is class warfare.
Mm,
And the poor and the middle class have lost.
mm.
The wealth is being transferred up.
Yeah, that is a very good point. One of in doing research for my book, one of the recurring themes that I see is, when it's like, you look at the Dust Bowl era, it was the folks that stayed behind that suffered the most, and they just had to say they had no other options. If you have
Freedom is mobility,
exactly,
and they had no mobility.
that's
So
right,
it takes money to have mobility.
that's right,
I mean, what's so ironic is you have the wealthiest people living on the coastlines, right?
right,
And you have the poorest people living on the coastlines like New Orleans, right? Where all
right.
the storms are hitting. And those of us in middle America are subsidizing the insurance premiums of the uber rich to live on that coastline
Hmm.
and rebuild their homes after damage. I mean, the whole thing is, it just, I mean, this is indicative of what's happening around the world, right? I mean, it's not just us, in terms of being impacted by this. We just have a totally different reaction where the reaction appears to be, and I need to be so careful here, but let's save ourselves and to hell with the rest of them. And
Hmm.
other countries who are still in the business of governing are trying to do what's best for the majority of the population. That's the only difference, is that the United States is no longer doing what's best for the majority of the population. We've stopped looking for those solutions. And the scary thing is, those solutions exist. So it's up to us as an industry to start pursuing those solutions on our own.
We've talked about this in the past, and part of me, it's not an excuse, but part of me wonders if this is a symptom of maybe people thinking that we blew it out of proportion too long ago, and things, like when Al Gore made predictions on an
How
inconvenient truth.
convenient is that? That we blew it out of proportion. He was just early, but he was absolutely right.
He was right, actually.
And I feel a little sensitive about that because for 25 years, I've been producing events, making predictions about things long before they happen, and they're happening.
Right.
I mean, my very first event, Eurocatalyst 2002 in Madrid, I was trying to warn the world that mortgage markets were going to implode, that it would be a global phenomenon from which we would never recover, we would only adapt, and the backlash would lead to nationalism and the erosion of democracy around the world. How'd I do?
And you nailed it. I that's I,
2010, Air Catalyst 2010, I added a day onto the event to embrace this crazy group of cowboys that were out there buying single family homes. And I embraced them and called it renting, comma, the future, right? 2011, convergence, because I was talking about the convergence between the housing finance side of the industry and the residential real estate side of the industry, which never the twain shall meet. Remember those days? That was convergence. 2020, entropy before COVID hit. That was my theme. That the American mortgage market was in an advanced state of entropy, that if you didn't maintain it, things would fall apart and I predicted that things would fall apart. The session on climate change was called Fatal Abstraction: where to buy, where to sell, and when to freak out. And in that session, I told everybody it's just a matter of months now before insurance companies start canceling insurance policies and pulling out of markets altogether. 3 months later, they did.
Right.
So, as somebody who has always been called Cassandra, I feel a little sensitive about people who serve as early warning indicators.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, because you make a very good point. You're not wrong, and that is such a counter argument that it was overhyped, or but you're not wrong, and I get what you're saying, because you put yourself out there making bold predictions, which is what I so admire about you. How did you become
I'm not
such
just, thank you for that, but I'm not just trying to make predictions. In 1998, I was working for a division of the Dutch government based in Amsterdam. They sent me to London for a year to study scenario planning with the world famous Shell Scenarios team. So I'm used to running scenarios of the future. These aren't just predictions. This is what I see. And I see these things based on a really heavy analysis of social, technological, economic, environmental, and political factors.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in a vacuum. I'm not just looking at the market saying, oh, it's going to collapse because of financial reasons. It's always more complex.
Mm-hmm.
It's the forces of globalization. And now there's a backlash to that, right? I mean, to save the world, we needed cooperation, collaboration, competence, right? All the key words. If we're going to survive, we've got to compromise. We've got to work together. And now we're part of a world where the only people working together are way up here making the decisions for the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
And this is indeed a global phenomenon. I mean, I was at Davos recently and everybody was talking about it.
Say more about that. Because you do, you speak for the masses, but you obviously are in the circles with these elites and having these conversations. What are we not seeing? Is there anything that we're not seeing that you're seeing from conversations?
The entire world that we have known all of our lives no longer exists. The global world order that kept our world together no longer exists. The United States is no longer a friend of NATO. We are no longer an ally of Europe. And that was, the post-World War II structure that we've all relied on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when there's a financial collapse in 2008, all of the central banks around the world collaborated with each other to back that bus off the cliff. When that happens again, we're not going to have that collaboration among central banks around the world, especially because our central bank has lost its independence.
Well, that's another interesting point I'd like to go. I don't want to necessarily get into, we all know that it's losing its independence, but I would actually like to get your opinion on the central bank as an independent body up until now, and how do you, because you come from this world, you studied that world as well, the finance world. Where did the feds go wrong the last 10 years, in your opinion?
I don't feel like I have the competence to address that. And part of the problem of this world today is that every idiot feels like they've got an opinion, right? About things they know nothing about. And I may know more than the average bear, but I don't feel like I know enough. I can comment on Federal Reserve independence and why that's critical, but in terms of the moves that the feds have made, I'm not competent enough to comment on that. Otherwise, I would.
Right.
to be fair.
No, that's wonderful, and it takes a, a really, special person to acknowledge, as smart as you are, and you probably could give a pretty smart opinion about things, but to be willing to step back and say, it's just not my lane necessarily, and
Yeah.
you're right. There's there
But,
the
interview Chris Whalen. He would be a great guy to talk
I
to about
always
that
talk to my boy
because,
Chris Whalen, of
right,
course.
that's his lane.
Oh, we go
And
down
that's
those
who I
conversations.
would defer to.
Yes, that's right. Yes, good. That's a good point. Yes, good. I saw Chris.
But one thing I will say, if anyone out there is interested in central banks and central banking independence and authority and moves that they make, the greatest central banker, and this is arguable, but was a guy named Andrew Haldane from the Bank of England. And his last name is Haldane. He was at the helm during 2007 and 8. And his writing, his speeches are just a marvel to read.
Oh,
And I
wonderful.
recommend anybody read him. And it's interesting that he's no longer in central banking, by the way. He runs a huge, kind of systemically important charity for the arts in the UK. So
Wow.
he's living his best life doing what he really wants to do. But that guy was just as heroic as, you could do a film about him like Independence Day, where he was the hero that saved the global financial system. He was the diplomat that kept those central banks at the table.
Andy Held.
Very,
I see.
very
I love.
interesting
This is why
guy.
I love talking to you, because I learn something new every time we talk.
But that has been the cool thing about doing conferences because I'm always on the lookout for what is the narrative going to be? Who are the actors in my little play?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yes.
Right? I'm going to make a statement and I'm going to say, I think that the US mortgage market is in an advanced state of entropy, and therefore I'm going to put together sessions that will lead you to why I came to that conclusion and who are the people in that story that can best tell that story. And that's what's so different about my events, that people who would attend didn't realize that I was the one telling the story. And every session is a chapter in that story. And that story picks up from where we left off the year before. So when you put them together as a body of work, and by the way, I am writing a book about this,
Yes.
you've got a 25-year story that I've been telling about the world, starting with the advent of the Eurozone and the launch of the Euro banknote starting in 2002.
Wow.
And
I have you published any of the previous events? Republished them? Is there any way to get
they've
any?
always been on my website. They've
Yeah.
always been available to anyone who didn't have an idea and wanted one.
So since you are on the cutting edge of what the next conversation will be, and I just love it because it's like every year or every couple months we talk, there's like a new way of, a new paradigm that you open me up to about the world. And we've talked about the major points here. Obviously, climate, the world order coming
Economic
undone,
inequality,
economic inequality.
following out the housing
Are
market.
those the major themes of your upcoming conference?
I decided not to do an upcoming conference.
Oh, really? Well, that's news to me. You didn't even tell me. We have from Michael. We were talking about
I
it like last
just
week.
I just made that decision.
Really?
Yeah. I really do not think that we are in a socio-political environment to have the freedom for an Americatalyst event any longer. Mercalist events were very snarky. You saw me.
Yeah.
I would goad people on stage. We would have a great conversation. People who believe very differently than me, people who I respect and admire. Chris Whalen supports Donald Trump. I have tremendous respect for Chris Whalen. And I could have him on stage and we could bicker back and forth, hopefully in a way that was helpful to the audience instead of just bickering out of ego. But I don't think that we have the freedom today to discuss these issues in an open manner. I think it's no longer safe. That's one thing. And the other thing is for 25 years, I have given ideas away freely. I'm finally going to write about them myself.
Yeah. That's hard.
And unless I take credit for it, and to your credit, you tried me to get that right, to write that book with you.
Yep.
I have been too busy putting together events and not spending enough time writing down my own thoughts and ideas. And I finally decided that that's more important. And I think it's a better way to guide people to understand here's what I see happening, and this is why. And what do you see?
Right. And you can, and with technology, as we've been discussing in our lot recently, the advances with how AI can help you with, the kind of the formulation of that stuff. You can get your thoughts out and then, start to build media your own, and start to charge for it. I think people will follow you. I mean, there's the big thing now is Substack. Folks are like all the intellectuals that I follow have their own little Substack that, I'll pay $10 a month to be, to read their works. And I think that's a great idea for you. And it gets your voice, it gets you back out there, because I know these events take so much of your energy that, it's hard to continue to create when you're having to plan these events, right?
Yeah.
Well, I get it.
Yeah. And every event on average, for a 2-day event, I've got 68 speakers on average that I'm interacting with and discussing what they're going to discuss and what I'm going to ask them on stage. And, so anyway.
The only other, and I just want to, I don't want to leave this topic because there is a little bit of concern that I have with this news, because you're right. And I was talking that we probably are not, the civil discourse in this country has evaporated. Unfortunately, you can't even it's hard to have conversations with people that you don't agree with, or in a public environment. You're right. There may be some safety concerns, and especially with what's going on.
And I think with what's going to happen, because I don't think the housing market is going to collapse. I think it is in collapse, and this is what it looks like. And as the public starts to realize what's really happening here, I think we're going to have a lot of unrest. I think the next 7 to 8 months are critical, because you've got the unrest leading up to whether or not we even have the elections and whether or not those elections are fair. I mean, when you look at the SAVE Act, it's just horrifying what's happening to democracy. But you also have the job losses, the white collar job losses due to AI that are going to hit in about 8 months as well. And I think there's a reason we're building 50 ICE detention centers across this country. That's not just for immigrants. Those are concentration camps. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a sad situation there. Tell us what, this, for those that aren't as tuned into the laws and what's going on. Can you give a brief explanation, as you know it, what the SAVE Act is? It's about voter eligibility and about and obviously there are people that are saying that it's meant to restrict voter turnout, correct?
Well, for one thing, it requires that everybody get a passport, which is a very cumbersome process and an expensive process at that. It takes on average 12 to 14 weeks based on what I just had to go through with Davos. I mean, I had a passport, but I needed a renewal.
Uh-huh.
So it's a cumbersome process, it's an expensive process, but also your birth certificate, which how many people have their original birth certificate or are able to get an apostille, right, that validates that birth certificate in order to get that passport.
Right.
And your birth certificate name must match your passport. Well, what if I'm married?
Right.
Then I have to show my marriage certificate. I mean, it's such a cumbersome process that people would need to undergo right now in order to vote. So it affects all married women. It affects most poor people, all poor people, in fact. I mean, people who are busy trying to work, trying to pay their bills, they don't have time to go out and get a passport and prove all of this stuff. But I will say that we never had a problem with election integrity in this country until someone came along and lost an election. If you look back over the history of the United States, we were the beacon of election stability around the world. It was the United States that would ensure fair elections in other countries. Our system was sound. There's only one person who claims it was not. One person. Are we going to take that one person's word or history and the bulk of history? So, I didn't want to get into politics, but, one of the questions you were going to ask me, what unique perspective does your experience give you in this
Yes.
industry? And I was gonna
Give it to us.
So I think I'm probably one of the only people in this industry that has degrees in psychology, clinical psychology, and women's studies. So when I get screwed, I know exactly why. The other way I was going to answer that question, I've worked in 18 countries around the world. I lived in Europe for 14 years. I've set up origination, servicing, real estate investment operations. I've worked with sovereign wealth funds. So I have a real global perspective. But what's interesting about what's happening with the affordability crisis, this is a global issue. This is not just the United States struggling with affordability. So, by the way, I can't blame it all on Trump either. This income inequality issue has been ongoing since post World War II and since the breakdown of the unions in the 70s. And right, this is the triumph of the oligarchy. And you and I ain't it.
That's right. And I'm just glad that you're still gonna be out there, having these conversations in your own forum, in whatever square, on your website, writing your next book.
I'm still going to do AmeriCatalyst events. They're just going to be extremely private and extremely small.
Good.
When I want to bring together 30 people at the top of the industry to discuss a topic that I think they need to talk about, I will, because my work is up here. I'm trying to impact that top of the pyramid.
So, and you do, I mean, you are a true leader, and I acknowledge you for everything that you're doing for humanity and the way that you bring insight into complex macro things. Let's take 1 minute. I want to hear, or however many minutes you want, and I just want to hear if I'm an average person is, we're speaking on a global scale, and the macro forces that are at play. What are you telling your friends whether they're, middle income people in Florida or Texas, or, what are you telling people to do in the face of what's going on in our world? And especially with regard to preparing themselves financially, their properties.
Diversify and diversify out of the US dollar.
It's good advice, actually. It's what I told my sister 6 months ago, so I'm glad that somebody else agrees with me.
Well, part of me wants to say the lesson of 1933 was get out. And I'm really torn between wanting to get out and wanting to stay and make my country better and make my country the country that I want to live in. But I want to live in a country that's fair to more than just myself. And, we've got people controlling this country that don't give a damn about the masses, that no longer are interested in governing.
Yeah.
They're interested in ruling
Yeah.
and exploiting.
Yeah, the power is overtaken, the desire for power has overtaken all other things.
And let's hope I don't end up in an ice camp for my
I laugh, but I could never imagine such a thing. And now it's not unimaginable either.
Look at Germany, 1933, 1934, we're there. I'm sorry to say it, but we're there.
Yeah.
And the more you know about history, the more you realize that. Having lived in Europe for 14 years and been exposed to so much of that history, I don't want to die for telling the truth, but people die for telling the truth all the time around this world. Look at what's happening in Iran at the protests. I mean, this is a very scary time in the world, and what do? You enjoy every moment you've got right now. And you spend time with the people that you love and the people that you respect. And, we're all going to die. So we can die living or we can live dying.
I love that. My brother-in-law has been quoted it recently as saying, if the world's going to end, I'd like to be alive to see it.
Yeah, I just don't want it to hurt. I don't want to be tortured.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I don't want it to hurt.
Yeah, well, I thank you for everything that you do, and that, you are sticking around and speaking truth about what's going on to power. I know it's very, going back to this, it's like we're all afraid to really have an opinion because we live in this world where, people go after you for your opinions. This doesn't feel like America, obviously. It doesn't feel like the melting pot I grew up knowing that America was, where anyone from any world, could come and make a new life and build something for themselves. And, we've lost our moral compass for sure.
But the truth is, I have more in common as a human being with a Trump supporter sometimes than I do with other Democrats, because they feel passionate about something that we really do share in common. And I think that so much of the social media and so much of this hatred is about separating us and conquering us. It's about ending our connection to each other. And that's what's scary, is we're losing that human connection. What scares me about the anti-woke movement is that all of the ideals of the Enlightenment are now considered woke. And what are those ideals? Empathy, compassion, freedom, democracy, independence. That's woke. That's considered a bad thing right now. Empathy. Come on, we're human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I feel really strongly about it. And I mean, some of the people that I love the most believe the most differently about me. I mean, than me, not about me. I'm pretty transparent.
No, they love you, I know. And I agree. I have friends on every single side of all sides of the political spectrum. I have investors that are both are that are Trump supporters, and I have investors that hate him. And you couldn't put these two people in a room together. I listen. I like to hear people's opinions. I scratch my head about things a lot. And I think that what will get us through these times, which will bring about a new level of leadership, is listening to others, even when and
Well,
having.
morality is not a woke concept. Morality is a human concept.
That's right.
And that's what we're losing here is our sense of morality. And I'll just end on that.
It is always a serious conversation because you're pointing to, some really serious issues, right? And in the meantime, we'll just love
I'm going
each
to go
other.
hug my dog.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just thinking I'm gonna go. Yeah. What do I do? I need some human connection now.
Yeah, I feel like, what's that little monkey? Punch. I feel like Punch. Where's my teddy bear? From now on, our nicknames for each other are going to be Punch.
Punch. What's up, Punch?
You know what I'm talking about? The little monkey whose mother. I mean, I can't believe we're laughing, but I can relate to Punch in this world.
Right. That adds new meaning to get the monkey off your back.
Actually, no, but the good thing is Punch now has other members of, the family who are taking care and embracing Punch. And, we can't control what's happening politically other than our vote, but we can certainly control our lives and who we love and who we spend our time with and what matters most to us.
I agree.
That we do.
Turn off the media. Get back with people. You know, all the major media is just politics. It's like I want to. Let's get back to human stories. There's more to talk.
Rage sells.
That's true. That's the problem. Even AI knows that.
Yeah, I'm Team Human. Go read Douglas Rushkoff's book, Team Human.
Ooh, I like
I'm
that.
on Team Human.
Toni, thank you for spending some time with me. I'm going to ask you to come back. I'm still going to beg you for more ideas always. But anything I can do to help you and get this story out and, start monetizing your thoughts and, me. I thought the AmeriCatalyst event that I attended of yours, what was that, 2 years ago? 3? Was it
Yeah,
last?
it was April of 24.
By far one of the most valuable experiences at an event, unlike anything I've ever been to. A real think tank, like you said, you told a story there. And I was actually going back and, watching some of the videos that you shared with me from the event. It was just great. Just great.
Yeah, remember when I sang Beyonce?
That's right. That's right. But by the way,
fire burned his house down. Insurance ain't gonna pay no Fannie Mae. Shit.
by the way, I'll be with your boy Rick Sharga next week so I'll say hello
for me.
Yeah. So it'll be fun. Yeah, we're being at I think I might actually be in a session with him on something. I don't know, service or roundtable or something.
God,
Anyway,
he is such a knowledgeable guy, isn't he?
great guy.
And he's so balanced.
Yep. And I'm glad that I think he's get a regular turn on News Nation nowadays. He's starting to get some real national exposure as a thought leader and mortgage. That's where you need to be. Maybe not News
So,
Nation,
yeah,
but
I,
Bloomberg or
yeah, I just, the problem with me is I don't
you don't hold back.
mess around. I just get right to the point, right? And I hear a lot of people, it's like we're drowning and they're describing the water, right? Isn't that a line from a
Right.
movie too?
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson. I'm drowning and you're describing the water.
Right.
Whoa, the waves are really high. I mean, say, we're having an unprecedented storm. Get in a boat, get a raft, get a life raft instead of, headwinds. That's one of my favorite economic terms. We're facing headwinds.
Yeah, exactly. The way that that language is used um, to really affect the story is just very sad, and especially in finance,
It's yeah, and
pullbacks.
it's designed to keep the story going instead of coming to conclusions about it and opening the next chapter. We can't get to the next chapter because we're not finishing the story.
We are going through a very destabilizing time. The whole world order is changing. Perhaps permanently, and I also believe that, just like market cycles are, say, go and, everything goes. And we've been in a long, run here, and we're going through this very, this different kind of leadership. And
Reactionary.
exactly. And we may go through some tough times. Well, we will. And on the other side of it, you know, leaders like yourself, great leaders will come back to
I just hope I
prominence.
get to the other side. I would like to get to the other side.
I hope you will. I know you will. You'll stay with me. I
I
got
better
your
keep
back.
my mouth shut.
Yeah, yeah. No more comments then.
Yeah.
If I hope we're not recording a podcast.
I promised myself, okay, I'm not going to say anything controversial.
And there you go, right into it.
Target.
Oh,
But I'm
Tony
trying
Moss.
to speak up for Team Human. Come
Yeah, I
on.
love it. Team Human. I'm all for Team Human. It's been great being with you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
That's a wrap of today's episode of Debt Doctor. I enjoy bringing this content to you each and every week, and I really appreciate you tuning in. Remember to follow us so you get notified whenever new episodes release. If you haven't already done so, please share one of your favorite episodes with a friend, family, or colleagues. And if you don't mind, leave us a positive review on Apple, Spotify, or whatever your favorite listening platform might be. Until next time, thank you for investing your time with us on The Debt Doctor.